I might speak that slang, but got that word. Yo, I can still pull up where I served in. They watching my moves, they observing. Steam my brother, it's whatever for you. I'ma serve. Cashapp, what you need? I might speak that slang, but got that word. Yo, I can still pull up where I served in. They watching my moves, they observing. Steam my brother, it's whatever for you. I'ma serve. I'm standing right here, you can crucify me. I'll forever be a voice for the voiceless. Hang with the Lord, you can get on. Hang some of my haters, who they put on. Do this for the Lord, we don't put on. And we lay down the blueprint, and we following the red plan. Put a blue letter, re-reference. No blood or Crips, y'all brothers repent. You know the vibes when we bump shows. No, we going up, but don't speak on. Know what I'm on in real time. And we too lit for lies. The box they living lies. Don't need your criticize. Never met him one time, but my name in his mind. Why most I gotta remind to stop the COVID, they wild. I might speak that slang, but got that word. Yo, I can still pull up where I served in. They watching my moves, they observe. Steam my brother, it's whatever for you. I'ma serve. I might speak that slang, but got that word. Yo, I can still pull up where I served in. They watching my moves, they observe. Steam my brother, it's whatever for you. I'ma serve. Yo.
Say there are them that keep the commandments, cause them have the right to the tree of life and can go through the gate into the city. Cause without them a dog.
Thy kingdom come is told Meg, so obey the Mosaic, nigga, that's grave. Like the captivity when holy Moses stole the locust, scoliosis, get back crazy. Christ the living water, free to wave, will behave. I need a slave, Mr. Passways. He just laughed and said, nigga, it ain't over till then seen a higher choir full of fat ladies. Her Mashiach birth was perfect, he don't act shady. Spirit dope from the womb like a crack baby. We Christ followers, let America meet the black Navy. And watch this privileged Christian cracker like black slave. Israelites, bitch, we humongous. Wise Q and Q the cucumber. I prep twice, my mind 2 bunkers. Voice of choice to the newcomers. My Micah Myers, I need blue jumpers. 300 kosher soldiers, Leonidas. Awards ready, Gideon and Titus. No being nice, a knife to Dionysus. My law heathens, I quit being biased. The key to tree of life is being pious.
You loudmouth bitches barking at the dog whisperer. You will catch these paws in the name of the living word. I don't pump fake, I'm a pivot around this perimeter. They bite the jab step, whole time I'm checking your temperature. I can minister this literature in a verse into integers. All the babes in the truth weaned off the milk, get a quench of thirst. We are holy people, that's set apart like a room full of introverts. I guarantee you have never heard that up in your church. You see this woolly hair, plus my feet the color of brass. I'm just here to prophesy, my foot going up your ass. I'm smirk, while others chuckle. I'm glad I can make you laugh. Come on and sign a death row, all I need is your autograph. I got a stick in my hand like I'm ready to play fetch. You brag about your hands, but there's nothing you can't catch. I'm a landlord, no dogs around this complex. Been stepping on shit, can't keep my feet off next.
Yeah man, tell them boy I say, yo, you know hear me change. Yo, oh I'm glad.
Yeah. I'm tired of fake humility, tired of being tired, I'm tired of false stability. I just wanna make a couple dollars, fly to Italy, take a trip to Golan, travel to the motherland, spend a couple of dollars in villas overlooking sand, disappear with the phone, just a couple of plans. I wait, remember I'm on the planet where little men kill each other for chains. It's insane, need a plan somehow, gotta get on my feet, arouse from sleep. No time to be concerned with the luxuries of the beach. We trap, how did we get so fascinated with we? My people dying too fast, can't lose a minute, we need to rise. As I try to envision the first steps, get distracted of stress and lose sight of the rest. It's too hot to think, it's too hard to rise. In this pot we sink, and we all reside inside.
If you slip or you fall today, don't lose your grip, don't you fall away. Stand up 7 times when I'm praying for the tribes, and I don't wanna lose you. Slip or you fall today. Don't lose your grip, don't you fall away. Stand up 7 times, man, I'm praying for the tribes, and I don't wanna lose.
Hey, shalom, 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 Israel. Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shabbarakatham. All praise to the Most High, man. Back in here on the Thursday, right? I do want to I'm doing a mic check real quick. Y'all put a 7 in the chat. It looked like I sound good from my side, but y'all let me know. All right, y'all let me know if it sound good, and we're gonna get into it. Because the class for the night, man, I'm gonna be dealing with the Israel-Palestine conflict. So it's cold because when we was at camp the last time, okay, the 7's coming in, all praises. So last time we was at camp, a Jewish dude came up, or somebody random came up actually, and was like, yo, what y'all think about the Israel-Palestine situation? So for a while now, I'd have had this printed out in my little book that I bring to camp, right? I bring this book to camp, and you know what I'm saying? I ain't been through the notes in so long because I done had it for so long or whatever like that. Well, I wanted to make it a class so y'all could be abreast of the situation and y'all could be able to break it down if somebody was to ask you. This is a talking point, right? A lot of people who don't really care about the Bible, they will talk about politics. And not knowing nothing about politics, not knowing nothing about how the United States gets down. So that's what we're going to go into. We're going to show you how to cut them up on that too, right? And not necessarily for the Christians, but just for anybody who don't believe that we the children of Israel and they believe that somebody else is, okay? So we're going to get right into it. All praise to the Most High. So I want to start with my notes. I'm going to bring my notes up on the screen. Share the screen. Okay. So let's take a look at this real quick, right? So I got a lot of stuff on here. Y'all gonna have to walk with me. But these are my notes straight out of my phone, right? So basically, I got a screenshot of my notes and I found some information and I'm just gonna bring it out. Now, this is how the lesson could smoothly go together, but this is a complex topic. So I don't want to play it off like we're gonna cover every single aspect of this topic. This is one of the most complex political topics on earth right now. But strangely enough, it involves us in an indirect way. So we got to be able to break it down. We got to be able to go into it, right? So number one, we hate Zionism, right? You want to know what Israelites think about the Israel-Palestine conflict? And I'm going to get into why it matters later. But you want to know what we think about it? We hate Zionism with a pure hatred, a perfect hatred, right? Because we know what it is to its core. Zionism is not about protecting people. Zionism is not about establishing a nation of people called the Jews in a national homeland and keeping them safe. That's not Zionism. Some people believe that's the concept of Zionism. That's not Zionism. And we're going to show you from the founders of Zionism what they said it was. And on top of that, how they moved through life and how they treated it. Okay. Give me a quick second. I need to type something in real fast because I forgot to add this, but it got to be added. Right. Okay, this got to be added. Okay. Yeah, let me get that image right there. I'm going to copy this, save image, and then now I'm going to drop this in the notes. I want y'all to see something as we get started here. Right, I want y'all to see something as we get started, and I'm going to drop this right here at the top just so y'all see it right off the bat. Salakia for not having this already. But I think just about everything else I need is going to be on the screen already. Okay. Alrighty, it froze. Let's try it again. Let's try it again. Come on now. People waiting on you. The people waiting on you. Okay, so choose photo. Okay, I want y'all to see this. And this is going to pop up on the screen instantly. It should anyway. Okay. Give it a quick second. Okay, so this image right here, right? And I'm going to pull it up on my other tab so y'all can see it clearly. But this image right here is very interesting for people who are trying to claim that Israel, the state of Israel today, is about Jewish people and bringing them back to their homeland. If you can read this, that says Jewish Colonial Trust. We're going to go over the definition of the word colonial, right? And it says Jewish Colonial Trust. And then let's see what this says, what they say about it online, right? So we go to it online, and it says Jewish Colonial Trust is incorporated in London, right? March the 20th, 1899, as the first Zionist Congress in Basel, Switzerland in 1897. The idea of a central fund to support the development of a Jewish home in Palestine was raised by Max Bodenheimer, a lawyer from Cologne, Germany. In May of 1898, in the initial committee, consisting of Bodenheimer and some other people, was organized to lay the foundation for the new enterprise, right? This became a bank, one of the first banks of the nation of Israel, later on down the line, and one of the first institutions to help fund the Zionist movement later, right? Now, why is this important? Zionism, the reason we hate it so much, Zionism is nothing but colonialism. Very important point to make and very important to understand when we start talking about why Israelites don't like Zionism, right? It's a colonial project. They went in, they found some land, they took over that land economically, politically, and in other ways, and can now control the resources in that land wherever they are on the planet, right? In fact, if you read the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, which we're not even going to do because we know this, but the book of Deuteronomy 28 goes through the curses and says that the children of Israel will be the one under the curses, right? Well, in this situation, these people who call themselves the Jews, they are the ones inflicting the punishment on somebody else, right? And we're going to make all this make sense. Okay, so let's look at the history of the conflict first. So let me pull that up. Okay, we're going to start here. Now, this is the UN website, United Nations website. Okay, and let me make sure y'all can see this because I think my screen is sharing the wrong screen. Hold tight. Okay, present. And I'm just going to share this entire screen over here so y'all see this. Okay, so this is the UN website, right? This is the timeline of events that went down in the nation of Israel from before its beginning, okay, all the way until recent times, right? So it gets all the way as far as 2024. So when we start off, it starts with the term Zionism is first coined by a Viennese writer, Nathan Birnbaum. Now, I want y'all to think about something. First thing we learn is that Zionism was created about 200 years ago, 150 years ago. That's when Zionism was created. I hope y'all taking notes. Zionism was created 150 years ago. So what happens today is when you speak out about Zionism or when you speak against Zionism or the tenets of that philosophy, people attach you to being anti-Semitic. But Zionism is not equal to being a Jewish person. It's possible for a person to be a Zionist and not be Jewish, and it's possible for a Jewish person to not be Zionist. Okay? So we gotta stand up when people try to say, whenever we speak out against Zionism, we're always called anti-Semitic, right? But that is a cover-up that is explained by a book that I have here, but I'm not going into that book tonight. But that's a cover-up. That's a Jedi mind trick. That's almost like when you dealing with somebody, you bring out a fact that they got to deal with, and instead of them dealing with the fact, they get mad because you hurt their feelings, right? That's the kind of the same thing. The anti-Semitic term is a label that they throw on people so they don't have a real conversation with you. So calling somebody or saying that you hate Zionism is not the same as saying you hate Jewish people. So they try to say that you're anti-Semitic when you do that, right? But let's keep going. So 1885, the term Zionist first coined by a Viennese writer, Nathan Birnbaum, right? A couple years later, or next year, about 14 years later, Theodore Herzl is the founder of the Zionist movement. This guy is going to be very important in understanding what Zionism is, right? And we're going to get there. He's the founder of the Zionism movement, and he calls for a restoration of the Jewish state. Now, I want to get y'all something real fast. What is the definition of a state? Right? Y'all put that in the chat. I want to know who knows the definition of state. And how is that different from the definition of a nation? Okay. And I'm going to pull up my notes as we do this, because national identity and state identity are not the same. And this is also something that our people don't understand because we're not used to building nations. But that's something that I'm particularly interested in. And I do a lot of studying on nation building, state building, and things like that, right? Let's look at the definition of state. Because Theodore Herzl in Zionism seeks to start a Jewish state. So let's see what it is. Okay. A nation or territory considered as a organized political community under one government. That's the definition of a state. A state has nothing to do with your nationality. Zero at all to do with your nationality. That's why the state of Israel, right, is comprised of Arabs, is comprised of Palestinians, is comprised of Jewish people, is comprised of, you know, different people from all over the world who are now claiming to be Israelis. That's what a state is. Like the state of North Carolina is anybody who has residence in the state, and they are also a U.S. citizen, right? These will be members of the state of North Carolina. Okay. Now, the nation, let's look up the definition of a nation. And we go over this all the time, so everybody should know this part. Definition of a nation is a large body of people, look at this, united by common descent, history, culture, or language, and it should say usually inhabiting a particular country or territory, because a nation doesn't always have to be in the same particular territory or country, right? So that's a large body of people with a common descent, a common history, a common culture, a common language. That's what a nation is. Now, sometimes you'll see the word nation state. Let's make sense of that, right? So we got three different terms. A nation state is a sovereign state whose citizens are subjects are relatively homogeneous, right? Meaning that they are closely one people. They're very close to being one people, like Germans or like European, modern day Europeans or something like that, right? In factors such as language or common descent. That would be a nation state. So you have three different options. You have a nation, which is just based on your descendancy, your culture, your language, things like that, that bonds the people together, making them one nation. Then you have a state, which is a political structure that governs over a group of people, and they don't have to be related at all. And then you have a nation state, which takes both and puts them together. Okay. Now let's go back, Because look what Theodore Herzl wanted to do in 1896. And I want y'all to think about the timeline of events, because we know that the Jewish people didn't get into Palestine until after the Balfour Declaration, and even further after World War II, right? But this is a plan that had already started in 1896. So World War II is around 1940 something. It don't end until 1940 something, and then the Jewish people find a homeland in Palestine in 1947. But this plan was in action 50 years before that. Very important, right? These are the reasons why we don't trust that process and why we don't believe that those people are the true people, right? Let's keep watching. So Theodore Herzl, founder of the Zionist movement, calls for a restoration of the Jewish state, not nation. Let's keep going. First Zionist Congress takes place in Basel, Switzerland, and the first Zionist organization is founded, right, in Switzerland. And once again, 1897, 50 years before the creation of the state of Israel. So this process was already in motion. I want y'all to pay attention because you're going to see something very interesting here. Let's keep going. British cabinet member Herbert Samuel calls for a British annexation of Palestine in memorandum future of Palestine. So now a British cabinet member calls for the separation or the annexation of Palestine. And what he's doing is he's sectioning off the land, even though Jewish people don't live there yet, by and large. They don't live there yet. In fact, it's an Arab state at this time, and the Arabs are living there minding their business, right? The British people already starting to make moves to get somebody of Jewish descent into that land, already making moves. Pay attention. See, when we start talking about nation building, we start talking about politics, and we start talking about certain things like this, we got to see the long plays that they're making. You know, some of the things that Donald Trump is signing into law now, some of his executive orders now, they're going to have reverberations for the next 50 years. And you're not going to understand what the true impact of it was for 50 years. And then 50 years from now, somebody will be writing about it. Hey, if it wasn't for Donald Trump doing this, then X, Y, and Z would have never happened, right? So that's how long it takes for these policies to really take hold and to have an effect. So look at this. 1916, European powers conclude secret Sykes-Picot agreement. And I want you to think about the word secret there, okay? Because once again, they're doing things in secret, and they're manipulating the world scale. And they're manipulating maps, they're manipulating people groups, they're manipulating all of that, right? So European powers conclude secret Sykes-Picot agreement dividing future spheres of influence in Ottoman Empire territories. Guess what? By them doing this, because this was Palestine was previously held Ottoman Empire territory. So this is a chess move. What they're doing is they're taking Palestine or Israel or however you want to call it. They're dividing that land up and saying, hey, you in charge of this, you in charge of that, you in charge of that. They're not leaving it, however, in charge by the people who live there. They're giving it to white nations to govern over how these nations are divided, how these nations are set up, right? It's the same thing we saw in colonialism, right? And let me pull this up really quick. It's the same thing we saw in colonialism. People want to know why we don't like Zionism. This is why. It's too much like colonialism. So let's look at it. Colonialism, the definition. Okay, it says the policy or practice of acquiring full or partial political control over another country. But watch this, occupying it with settlers and exploiting it economically. So when we think about Africa, right, what they call the scramble for Africa, what European powers did was, and one of the main people who did it was a guy we're going to go into today. But what European powers did was they came into the continent of Africa and they split up the continent based on its resources, and they gave some of it to France, some of it to Portugal, right? Some of it to Britain, some of it to, and they divided the pie like that. Some of it to Spain. They divided the pie. The Dutch took some, and they exploited the continent of Africa. And this is what we're seeing that they're doing in Israel now, right? They took that land, they split it up, and they're taking the resources out of that land, namely the territory of earth is the main resource, because they know that that's the most important land on the earth. They know that. So they're there to occupy that land, and they know it's going to continue to cause wars forever and ever. But as long as they can keep us out, they don't care. Right? Now, let's get into it. Let's see what y'all said in the chat real quick. He said the particular condition that someone or something is in at a specific time. Okay, yep, that's one of them. And then the second one was the state, right? A nation or territory considered as an organized political community. That's right. And so notice that the Zionists, or the Jewish people, when they first started Zionism, they were never aiming to create a nation. Extremely important. This is why y'all stepping fetched Negroes who thought that the Jewish man was going to allow you in with open arms. This is why when you got there, you had to fight uphill just to be called one of them. They forced you to join their military, and we're going to make all this make sense, right? They forced certain people to join their military, forced certain people to do certain things, and still never gave them the full rights and citizenship of being a citizen of Israel, because it's a state. It's a Jewish state. It's not a nation. Now, let's go back. So we're looking at colonialism, right? And we're gonna jump through this history, because I need y'all to go look at this on your own time. You can Google the history of Israel-Palestine and go to the United Nations website to find this, okay? But ultimately, we end up with the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration promises a national homeland for the Jewish people in Palestine. Once again, this is 30 years before they got the nation. Very strange that after World War II, the land was already ready for them to move in. It was already ready. Everything was ready for them to move in and take refuge in that land. And when they arrived there as refugees, and now they are the ruling class, right? This is why we don't like Zionism. Let me keep going. It says the League of Nations grants a mandate over the former Ottoman territory, Palestine, to the UK. So now you got a white group of nations. They came together and said, we're going to give that territory to the UK. Meanwhile, it's people already living there. Do you see the issue with this? Too much like what they did to Africa. Oh, I forgot. They on the continent of Africa, right? So let's keep rolling. Boom, boom, boom. We can skip a lot of this, right? Look at this. UK issues a white paper limiting Jewish immigration. Okay. But we know that was all a play, because after World War II, it's wide open, right? It's wide open after World War II. So look at this. In 1947, in February, UK proposes to relinquish its mandatory role and places the question of Palestine before the UN. In September, the UN Special Committee on Palestine issues a report to the General Assembly with plans for partition of a federal state in Palestine. Now, pay attention. Why do you need to have a partition plan when it was already people living there before you got there? You supposed to be seeking refuge. If you want to come in, that's cool. Just don't disrupt the program too much, right? That was never the plan. 30 years ago, the Balfour Declaration was saying, we want a homeland for the Jewish people. 30 years ago. This is a play. You can look at the UN website and watch the play unfold. You think we making this up? Go read it for yourself. right? And look at this. In November, the UN General Assembly adopts Resolution 181, which called to divide Palestine into an unnamed Jewish state and an unnamed Arab state. And this is the beginning of the problem. Because you have Palestinians who've been living there for hundreds of years, supposedly, Arabs who've been living there hundreds of years, supposedly, and they say, yo, we've been here. How you gonna come in here? And then the white world government gonna put you in here, give you the land, allow you to section the land off, and now it's not even our land no more. Now it's half your land, half their land. You see what I'm saying? This is why those people mad, bro. They're gonna fight till they die. They're gonna fight till they die, right? Because they still got the spirit in them to fight. Something that y'all Negroes done lost here in America, right? Because y'all too comfortable. Now pay attention. Watch this. So you get 1948. Look at this. The Deir Yassin massacre. Zionist paramilitary groups kill hundreds of Palestinian Arabs in a village near Jerusalem. Remember how we always say that they can't be the people because war has been happening ever since they touched ground? The nation was started in 1947. 1948 is one of the biggest wars. And then from there, it's nothing but wars continuously after that, all the way until today. Okay? They had brief periods where they stopped, but for the most part, it was war on and on continuously until today. Now, let me pull up one more graphic. Right? Let me pull up one more graphic for you. And I'm going to show you what I'm typing in because I want y'all to be able to follow this and be able to see it. Israeli territory. Look at this. Israeli territory over time. So we just read you the timeline of how they got there. Okay. Look at this. This is BBC back in 2023. When I saw this the first time, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Right? And we're going to show you this in writing, how these people thought to do this. So this right here is, hold on. I wish they had the years on here though. They don't have the years. Okay. Yeah, they do. Okay. So 1949, right? This is our first one of our first partitions, right? Where they sectioned off the land and said, hey, listen, this is where these people going to be. This is the territory, boom, 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 right? This is just how it played out. So you got the Jordans, you got the Jordanian people occupying Jerusalem, right? In the lands thereabout. You got Egyptians, and that's Arab Egyptians, not ancient Egyptians, right? But Arab Egyptians occupying Gaza. And then you have armistice lines, which is basically government control areas. And they're saying, hey, this is where your territory stops, right? That's 1949. Let's keep rolling. 1967. These are the lands that are occupied by Israelis. Land occupied by Israel in 1967. Let's keep going. Look at this. 1982. Land occupied by Israel. You still got your armistice lines. You got Golan Heights up there at the top right. You got the West Bank, which is what they always talk about. And then you got Gaza Strip. Right? Okay. Man, this is not the best graphic. Hold tight. There's a better one. There's a better one. Okay, y'all look at this one. Okay, hold on. Let's pull this up. Come on now. Don't do me like this. Okay. So look at this. So we got 1946. The green area was the Palestinians. That's Palestine. The white areas is the portions of land that the Israelis had begun to take over. By 1947, look how that changed. Because remember, in 1947, we read that they partitioned the land. They came up with a thing and they partitioned the land. So this right here, overnight. So now you see why those Palestinians was fighting and they was mad, right? Look, 1947 through 67, look how much Israel controls now. And now Palestine is shrunk into a small section. And then finally by 2012, right? And I'm actually in college at this time, studying Christian ministry and poli-sci, right? So I was doing political science. Look at this. I'm writing a paper on this. That year, I'm writing a paper on this. Israel in 2012 now controls that much land. The Palestinians have been forced into the Gaza Strip and certain parts of the West Bank, but very scarcely and not even united. In fact, they divided them on purpose and put partitions between and military checkpoints between where these Palestinians are living at. So they can't even leave and go to school or go see their grandma no more. They literally in a open air prison living inside these cities. Right? And that's where we find ourselves today. So when people ask us, how do we feel about the Israel-Palestine conflict? We hate Zionism, right? Now, we don't necessarily advocate for the Palestinians because they're not our people. We have to dedicate all resources and all focus to our people. We don't have time to help Palestinians fight their battle. We don't. And neither will we. But with that being said, it's important. This is an important issue. Why? Because it's colonialism, and even further than that is Jewish colonialism. Now, I can't say all Jewish people are in agreement with this, right? In fact, this book right here, I'm gonna pull it up on the screen for y'all. This book right here is a book by a Jewish guy who's against the occupation of the West Bank, right, and other areas in Israel. And they don't, and they're he's a Jewish guy, he's an Orthodox Jewish guy, but he's anti-Zionist, right? Let me let this pull up for a second. Y'all put some sevens in the chat if you're still walking with me. I know it's heavy information, but everything not gonna be super interesting. You know what I'm saying? Or I shouldn't use the word interesting. It ain't gonna be a bunch of drama and stuff like that. Sometimes we gotta put our hats on and be able to break down this information. Okay, so calm, all praises. All right, I want to show y'all the title of this book because I didn't write this book. Matter of fact, shout out to Candace Owens because that's who I found out about this book from. Right? Let me get the cover. Okay, I want the cover of the book. Let's pull that up. This is the name of this book. Everybody who claims to be an Israelite and you trying to prove that they stole your identity, if you ain't got this book, you ain't got no books. This the book you need because he breaks down everything I'm talking about in this class and shows you how they stole your identity. And he's a Jewish guy, so they can't even say that he's anti-Semitic. Even further than that, he goes live on Candace Owens. He goes live on multiple platforms, big name platforms, and breaks it down for you. Super smooth. So if you want a source where you don't have to read it because it's videos, this is the one you want. Okay. It's called The Empty Wagon, Zionism's Journey. Look at what it says. From identity crisis to identity theft. Now, why would he write a book like this? Because there was no such thing as the Jewish people before Zionism created it. And he documents the whole process in the book. He documents the whole process in the book. I'm sitting here reading this book, and it's not an easy read because he using like Yiddish words in there and things like that. So it's not an easy read, but it's a good read. Yeah, you're going to have to find it. It's going to be hard to find the PDF because that's what I was looking for earlier. Yeah, I was looking for the PDF, but I just bought it on Kindle. All right. So, but yeah, if I can find a way to download it, y'all got it for free. Okay. So we just went over the history of the conflict. Now let's look at the definition of Zionism, right? This is the definition. It says a movement. Look how it says originally, for the reestablishment and development and protection of a Jewish nation in what is now Israel. Now pay attention to how the Google definition of Zionism is different than what the original definition was, because we know that the UN documented that it's the establishment of a Jewish state, not a Jewish nation. Right? Very interesting and very important to know that. So look what it says. It was established as a political organization in 1897 under Theodore Herzl, who was later led by Chaim Weizmann. Right? Now, I want to say this 100 times because what they're going to do is they're going to try to pull this video down, but I don't care. Zionism is not equal to Judaism. There are plenty of Jews who are not Zionists, and there are plenty of Zionists who are not Jews. Zionism is a political movement. It is not a nationality. It is not a religious movement. In fact, most Zionists are anti-religious. I can't say most, but a lot of them. Let's say a lot of them. I can't say most. Look at this. Let's get into an interesting person here. And first, I'm gonna read this this article title. It says, under Zionism, Jewish lives have always mattered more. Zionism was never simply about the idea that Jewish lives matter. It has always privileged Jewish colonists over indigenous people, just as Theodore Herzl. You see that? Just as Theodore Herzl. Why are they saying as Theodore Herzl? Because Theodore Herzl wrote about what he believed. And Theodore Herzl was the biggest anti-Semite you ever gonna find. He was the biggest anti-Semite you ever gonna find. He wasn't a religious Jew. Right? I'm gonna have to pull a scripture now. But he was not a religious Jew. And he actually looked down on the Jewish people, if you call them that. He looked down on them, and he hated them because they didn't fight against their oppressors. So he wanted to fight against the oppressors for them. But he said, in order to do so, we have to take all these random groups of people and make them a single nation. All of this is documented in his writings. All of that's also documented in the book that I'm talking about. Let me read Deuteronomy 28:49. All right. Deuteronomy 28, I'm going to start actually at 43. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. Speaking of the true children of Israel. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, thou shalt be the tail. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God to keep his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee. Right? And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder upon thy seed forever. So these curses were supposed to be upon the children of Israel forever. But somehow, this guy was able to broker a relationship with Lord Balfour of England and come up with a grand plan and get the UN to buy in to bringing these people back into the land before the time appointed, and in direct opposition of every prophecy we can pull. Well, we're going to show you how it happened. There's a man named Cecil Rhodes. Y'all need this. Cecil Rhodes, listen. Cecil Rhodes was born in 1853, right? Bishops, Stortford, Herefordshire, whatever, England. And he died in 1902 in a Cape colony, which we call now South Africa. Now, if y'all know anything about South Africa was colonized. it was colonized by the British. And our people, some of our people, right? I believe some of our people was there, maybe not a lot of them, but in any case, some of our people, I believe, was there and was being colonized and exploited by the British people who lived there. The British minority, the white minority, was ruling over the black majority, right? And he was one of the guys who was involved. He was a financier, a statesman, and an empire builder of British South Africa, right? He was the prime minister of Cape Colony and organizer of the giant diamond mining company. So you already know he was the Edomite of the Edomites, right? He was setting up an empire for Britain to get rich, mining diamonds in South Africa. And none of that resources, none of that money was going to go back to South Africans. All of that money was going to go back to Britain. That's what colonization is, right? So anyway, remember we were talking about this dude named Theodore Herzl, right? Well, what does he got to do with Cecil Rhodes? Well, Theodore Herzl was a writer, and he wrote down all his thoughts and all his ideas. He wrote a letter to Cecil Rhodes that he never sent, but he still wrote it, showing us his intentions. And his words were, I want you to help me colonize the land of Palestine. Right? Now, you can find that, but you're never going to find the original document. Number one, it wasn't written in English. And number two, they make it very difficult to find, but this is a real document that was written in his journal, right? And I'm going to show you what I was able to find so far. Look at this. Theodore Herzl letter. Didn't even type it all the way in. Letter to Cecil Rhodes. Let's go to it. Right? Now notice a lot of people talking about this. A lot of people writing about this because we're not making this up. Right? We're not making this up. In fact, I'm gonna pull this up. It's a PDF that I downloaded. Look what it says. Okay, so we already read the top. Under Zionism, Jewish lives have always mattered more. Right? So we come down here. Okay, I'm gonna read a little bit of this, right? It says, but Zionism has nothing to do with calling on Jews, and rightfully so, to support Black lives. I too believe we should. The problem is that Levine's reasoning effectively legitimizes a slew of racist practices that Zionism enabled, practices that devalue the lives of others, right? Remember, we were just talking about that. Let's go down a little bit. Okay, here we go. In particular, his description misses out one crucial factor: Herzl's admiration for colonialism. Let's highlight that. Today, any association of Herzl and colonialism is likely to raise strong objections from Zionists such as Levine. Yet, Herzl's Zionism was indeed rooted in his wish to imitate European colonialism. Right? So we talking about how the Jewish people went into a new land. They were shaking hands. Oh man, thanks for letting us come. And then within a couple of years, they taking over the land. Right? Sounds very much like what white British people and white English people and white French people and white Spanish people did all throughout the Americas and throughout Africa. Right? Maybe because they got the playbook from those colonizers, or maybe some of them were those colonizers, right? Which we can prove on a different video. But look at this. Herzl's diary, this is what I was just talking about, mentions a letter that he sent to Cecil Rhodes. We just told you Cecil Rhodes is a big colonizer. He financed the British Empire and in building in South Africa and stuff like that. Look at this. A letter he sent to Cecil Rhodes in 1902, a British businessman and one of the most famous colonists of his period. Rhodes was the founder of De Beers Mining Company that took control of South Africa's diamonds. We just talked about that. Work conditions in De Beers mines were exploitative and dangerous. Some of the work was conducted by unpaid prisoners, while even paid workers were not allowed to leave their compounds. Before founding this company, Rhodes was the owner of British South Africa Company, which controlled gold mines there and similarly exploited African workers. Once again, Esau of the Esau's. In his letter, I want y'all to watch this, man. This, when I seen this, bro, I was like, ain't no way this is real. This is alley-oop if this is real, right? In his letter, Herzl writes to Rhodes, you are being invited to make history. It doesn't involve Africa, but a piece of Asia Minor. Not Englishmen, but Jews. So what is he saying? I want you to come help make history. Show me how to be a colonizer the way that you was being a colonizer. And remember, Theodore Herzl lived. Look at this, because we gotta make sure y'all walking with me. When did Theodore Herzl live, y'all? Look at this. Theodore Herzl's timeline is back here. And guess what he's called? The founder of the Zionist movement. The same guy who founded Zionism is the same guy who was contacting this colonialist and saying, yo, teach me the game. Right? This ain't no reach. This ain't no reach. So let's keep going. It says in his letter, Herzl writes to Rhodes, you are being invited to help make history. It doesn't involve Africa, but a piece of Asia Minor. Not Englishmen, but Jews. So I don't want to help Englishmen take over Israel. I want Jews to take over Israel. And we want to get rich the way y'all getting rich over there in Africa, the way y'all getting rich over there in the Americas. He said, how then do I happen to turn to you since this is out of the way matter for you? How indeed, because it is something colonial. So basically he asks his own question and answers it in this diary. And he says, why would I turn to you? Because this is a colonial project. We getting ready to partake in colonialism. And we want to know how you did it. Right? So this is what Theodore Herzl was trying to do. And damn it, this is what he did. Right? Because when we look at Israel today, that's what ended up happening. Okay, let's go back to the notes. Let's go back to the notes. Okay, my next point that I always bring up, because people don't believe this, but the Western world, and when we say the West, right, a lot of times you'll hear political people say the global North, or they'll say the West, like the Western world. When we speak of the West or we speak of the global North, we're talking about those nations that generally align with European principles, right? So pay attention to this. Covert military operations. It says Western involvement in regime change and covert operations. All right, so let me pull something else up for y'all real quick. Oh, actually, yeah, let me read this first. Let me read this first before I do that. So look what this says, right? And this is Al Jazeera. This is a major news outlet that's generally supporting of Palestinians because, as you see up here, they got the Muslim letters and stuff like that. So they support Muslims worldwide, whatever like that. Okay, now, Zionism, anti-Semitism, and colonialism. Zionist leaders consciously recognized that state anti-Semitism was essential to their colonial project, right? So that's just backing up what we just showed you. The people who created Zionism, they was all in it for colonialism, and they admired colonialists and they followed their patterns and they took that game plan and it's working all the way to the day. That's why when you look at Israel now, that's why those people are there taking over that land now, right? Right. That's absolutely right. She said colonialism is a practice of domination which involves the subjugation of one people by another. And generally, is for exploitation, right? And generally is for exploitation. So what they're going to do is not only are they going to subject you under their rule and their authority, but then they're going to build factories in your land and they're going to profit off those factories. If you read A Time After Forever, right, which is my book, if you read that, go and read the chapter about Liberia. I want y'all to look up, and I'm not going to do this in this class, but this is something for you to look up. Firestone in Liberia. I want you to look up the history of the tire company Firestone and look up their history in the land of Liberia. Okay? When you see that, you will understand colonialism. So let's go back because I want to get this. So a lot of people don't believe that the government is colluding against its people. And when I say the government, I mean the United States government. Okay? So we're going to show you clear-cut proof from unclassified documents on the FBI website. We're not going to take it from nobody else. We're going to go straight to the horse's mouth. Right? These are public files. In fact, it's law that after it's declassified, it has to be maintained in the records. So the FBI has all this information on their website. And look at what they're talking about, COINTELPRO. Now, a lot of us, we teach COINTELPRO all the time, but we don't understand that COINTELPRO was not only made for black people, it was made for any domestic group that was possibly going to create a national security risk. So what they did was they created a secret organization that would spy on those people, and then they would do counterintelligence measures, or what they call covert operations. And that's basically undercover operations. And then they would infiltrate those groups and make them fall from the inside out. Not only did they do this to us domestically, they did it to the KKK. They did it to different Puerto Rican groups. They did it in Cuba. They did it to the socialist workers' parties. They did it in various different places, and all these records are maintained right here. But let's click on black extremists. Right? Let's click on black extremists and look at this. These are all the documents they got. Okay, so I'm gonna click on the first one. Let's go to civil rights. All right, let's go to civil rights. Let's go to Malcolm X. I want to go to the Black Panthers. That's what I want. But I can't remember what they're under, but they're in here for sure because I've seen it. But let's go to Malcolm X. Right? Look at this. The FBI documents on Malcolm X. In fact, some of our beloved brothers that teach the Bible now and who have no notoriety in this community, some of those people are on the FBI's watch list. Whether you like it, understand it, believe it or not, they just are. And 100 years from now, the records will be released and you'll be able to read it. Right? Now look at this. This is Malcolm X, man. Our beloved brother Malcolm X, man. These are all the records they got on him. Let's go back. Rodney King. Why they got records on Rodney King? Because he was a potential civil rights leader after he got beat, and they started following. They was like, yo, we got to keep tabs on this dude now. Right? Look at this. Betty Shabazz. Who is who? Who is Betty Shabazz? If y'all don't know this, man, I'm ending the class. Who is Betty Shabazz? Right? If y'all don't know this, I'm ending the class, man. I'm done. I'm done with y'all. Right? Okay, yeah, look. Freedom of Information Act. That's right. Okay, y'all have to understand that. The Freedom of Information. Okay, all praises. Malcolm's wife. She saved y'all. Because if she wouldn't have got that right, I was ending the class. All right? Nah, I'm playing. So look, Freedom Riders, all of these various different things the FBI was keeping tabs on, but I want you to see this. And we're going to connect this to how this makes sense in the context of the Israel-Palestine situation. We're going to make it make sense. So look at this. FBI, Freedom of Information and Privacy Acts, right? Subject, COINTELPRO, Black extremists. And once again, remember that the Hebrew Israelites is on that list. So you know they got to file. You know they got to file. And this is another thing I want to challenge y'all. Be careful when you try to destroy one of your brothers on a live video. Be careful when you try to bring something out to destroy somebody that's in your community, because some of that information could have been spoon-fed to you by the FBI, right? Because they want to bring us down. But let's pay attention. So look at this. FBI, the best copy obtainable is included in the reproduction of these documents, right? And we got documents from 1967. And look, they document all the cities, right? That looked like the list of cities where Anointed House of Saints is at. All right, all praise to the Most High. But look at this. You see this? All this stuff. All this stuff. Now, this is a memorandum. And look at this. Black nationalist hate groups. Right? And I'm going to zoom in on this one because I want to read it. Some of it's blacked out, and I think probably because it's got information that's still sensitive or still classified, right? But this says this division during the summer of 1967 has had the opportunity to observe an attempt by an extremist Negro group to affect the peace of a city, right? So if we go and have a camp, we have a major camp and shut the city down, they might say, yo, they trying to affect the peace of the city. We gotta watch them, right? But watch this. Some of the steps taken against RAM may be of possible use elsewhere under the current program. You see that? Some of the steps that were taken under that against that group may be useful elsewhere. It is pointed out that in a fast-moving series of situations, the police may have to play it by ear, which may reduce bureau control of the action taken. Actions herein set out were carried out by either the intelligence unit or the civil disobedience unit of Philadelphia PD, the largest role being played by CDU, right? And then they actually highlight everything. They highlight everything. I read the whole thing on the Black Panthers. Let me pull up the Black Panthers, right? One of my favorite groups of all time, by the way. Black Panther Party. Look at this. FBI. This one says Charlotte, right? It says Charlotte. But this one says okay, let's just scroll in just to see what it says. On May 26, 1970, Captain Robert J. Horan, security officer, United States Army, John F. Kennedy Center for Military Assistance, advised information was received from, and they won't tell you because that person is being protected or that entity is being protected, right? Look at this. Captain Horan stated the information was that on May 6, 1974, unidentified Negro soldiers who stated that they were members of the Black Panther Party and did not identify themselves other than that they were from New York and Connecticut. The four alleged Panthers had received information a result of comments made during racial seminars held at Fort Bragg. Right? So they keeping tabs on everything, bro. They keep it tab. This is not for the faint of heart. If you came out here to serve the people and you putting your face out here and you teaching classes and you trying to wake your people up, they probably working against you in one of these counterintelligence units. They probably working against you. Right? This ain't no reach. We live in North Carolina. This right here was in North Carolina. Right? So this ain't no game, bro. This ain't no game. So anyway, let me get back to it, right? So how does that connect to Israel? Right? Let's connect the dots here. So we know inside the United States they got counterintelligence units. We know inside the United States because that's what the FBI was designed to do. The FBI investigates counterintelligence and they do counterintelligence measures within the United States. The CIA was created to do the same thing outside of the United States. Watch this. The CIA has a long history of engaging in covert operations, which are activities intended to influence foreign political, economic, or military conditions while concealing the U.S. government's roles. These operations are authorized by Executive Order 12333. Let's pull it up. Right? Executive Order 12. Oh, dang. Nobody want no angel number, man. What? 12333. Executive Order. What is an angel number? Okay. Look at this. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. Like, in order to make this up, you have to be a genius. So look at this. This is Executive Order 12333. Trying to figure out. Okay. Watch this. Yo, this right here is heavy. All y'all who thought y'all was gonna leave America and you was gonna get away from the beast and you was gonna get away from this government that Esau got set up. You funny. Watch this. The United States intelligence efforts shall provide the President and National Security Council with the necessary information on which to base decisions concerning the conduct and development of foreign, defense, and economic policy. Okay. Boom. National Security Act of 1947. Hold on. It's something. It's one that's cleaner than this. National Security Act of 1947. Oh, and keep in mind, the state of Israel was formed in 1947. Just a little random fact right there. National Security Act of 1947 was a U.S. law that reorganized U.S. military and intelligence agencies. This is what I want. Primarily in response to Cold War tensions. It established the Department of Defense, National Security Council, and the CIA. This is what we wanted. Let's go to it. Why would they need the CIA? The act also established the CIA, which grew out of World War II era Office of Strategic Services, which is called OSS. You can Google all this. And small post-war intelligence operations. The CIA served as the primary civilian intelligence gathering organization in the government. Later, the DIA became the main military intelligence body. 1947 law also caused far-reaching changes in the military establishment. The War Department, Navy Department merged into a single thing. Boom, 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 boom. And ultimately, they allowed for covert operations and undercover operations to happen in other nations to influence those other nations so that it could strengthen the United States. Right? Now watch this. U.S. involvement in regime change. Y'all got to keep walking with me. I know it's a lot, but once again, walk with me. So, since the 19th century, the U.S. government has participated and interfered both overtly and covertly in the replacement of many foreign governments. In the later half of the 19th century, which is the 1800s, the U.S. government initiated actions for regime change. I want you to see where it's at, y'all. Mainly in Latin America and the Southwest Pacific, including the Spanish-American and Philippine-American wars. At the onset of the 20th century, which is the 1900s, the U.S. shaped or installed governments in many countries around the world, including Hawaii, Panama, Honduras, Nicaragua, Mexico, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. Now, why is this so cold? Half of those nations we call Israelite nations. Haiti Haiti had a revolution, and they was the only one to have a revolution, and they was successful and fought against their oppressors, won the land back. They was the only ones to win a revolution against their colonizers. But the United States didn't let that go, and they implemented regime change shortly thereafter. Right? Now, what is regime change? Let me make that make sense real quick. A regime is a military setup or a military government of sorts. Sometimes it's not a government. Sometimes it's just a group of people that got guns and everybody else don't got guns, so they take over, right? That's why I call it regime. So it can be a government or it can be a paramilitary group. Well, these regimes could have been in control, but they was trying to do things that was they saw fit that was best for their people. Well, the United States, in the interest of what they call public security and national security, they went in and overthrew a lot of these countries and implemented a democratic system there. So that, number one, it wouldn't be communist, because we during the Cold War and shortly after, a lot of nations was trying to become communist. And so the United States was like, yo, we got to get more democratic nations so that the communist nations don't take over, right? And become allies with China and Russia and all that type of stuff, right? History that don't matter right now. But so ultimately, what you end up getting is the United States going around and strategically knocking down nations and knocking down governments. And they got good at it. In fact, I got a source here. I got a source here, and y'all not gonna be able to see this source. I may be able to pull it up, but look at what this says. It says, since the 19th century, the United States government has participated and interfered both overtly and covertly in the replacement of several foreign governments, right? It gives me a number down here. Okay. According to one study, the U.S. performed at least 81 overt and covert known interventions in foreign elections during the period 1946 to the year 2000. 81. That's 2 every year. About. Right? So that's crazy. Another study found that the U.S. engaged in 64 covert and 6 overt attempts at regime change during the Cold War alone. So the United States is professional at going inside your organization, destroying it from the inside out, and then putting their leadership there. What do we all claim happened to the Black Lives Matter movement? What do we all claim happened? It was hijacked and then taken somewhere else. What do we know happened to the Black Panther movement? It was hijacked and then the direction was changed. Right? What are we vulnerable to here in our communities? We're vulnerable to being hijacked and somebody taking our movement and going a different direction with it. We got to be careful. These people, they are professionals at this. This is what they do. So let's go back to Israel-Palestine. Why does it matter? How does this have to do with Israel-Palestine? The Bush administration was displeased with the government formed by Hamas. Hamas is the major Palestinian entity that's fighting against the Israelis now. At one point in time, the Palestinians had voted and chosen Hamas. But watch this. Watch what happens. The Bush administration was displeased with the government formed by Hamas, which won 56% of seats in the Palestinian legislative election in 2006. The U.S. government pressured the Fatah faction of Palestinian National Authority leadership to topple the Hamas government of Prime Minister Ismail and provided funding, including secret training and armaments program that received tens of millions of dollars in congressional funding. Look at this. This funding was initially blocked by Congress, who feared that arms provided to Palestinians may later be used against Israel, but the Bush administration circumvented Congress. This is their MO. When the United States went into Iraq, they were training bin Laden's people at one point in time to overthrow some government that they disagreed with at that time, because they wanted that regime to fall. The United States was allies with Muammar Gaddafi before they brought him down. They was friends with Saddam Hussein before they brought him down. Right? What they say, you dance with the devil, you gonna get burnt. Like you don't play with the devil. You don't make deals with the devil. Right? So what they did was they went through, they toppled governments and they toppled political systems from the inside out in order to strengthen themselves. And in this case, in order to strengthen the nation of Israel, because they wanted the Palestinian government to be weak. Look at this. We just read it, but this is the New York Times reporting on the exact same event that I was just talking about. Hey, that's 100%, Shemaiah, 100%. They definitely focusing on Ibrahim Traore. And I'm going to tell you this. They got classified documents on him right now. CIA. 100%. No doubt. Right? But look at this. U.S. spent $1.9 million to aid Fatah in the Palestinian elections. The United States spent about $1.9 million of its yearly $400 million in aid to the Palestinians on dozens of quick projects before elections this week to bolster the governing Fatah faction's image with voters and strengthen its hand in competing the militant factions Hamas, American and Palestinian officials said on Sunday. So that means that the United States is using money, foreign aid money, out of the congressional budget and trying to overthrow Palestinian governments and political movements right there on paper. They're doing it not only to you and me here in the United States, but they're doing it to our people all throughout the world. They did it in Kenya. They did it in Uganda. They're doing it all over the world, right? So that is regime change. That is what regime change is. That's when you secretly, through the CIA and through other means, because they don't have to use the CIA, they can actually use a paramilitary group, right? But they can send any group of people they want to in there to do a secret mission and overthrow an entire country. And then they wipe their hands clean and they walk away. Now, I want to go back to the story of the United Nations and the history of Israel. And this is on the United Nations website once again, right? Welcome to the United Nations right there. So 1917, the Balfour Declaration promises a national home for the Jewish people. 1922, League of Nations grants a mandate over the former Ottoman territory, right? And then the Balfour Declaration says they want to create a Jewish national home. In 1936 and 39, Palestinians start rebelling against this mandate and against the Jewish people coming into their land. And then in 1947, February, UK proposes to relinquish its mandatory role and places this question of Palestine before the UN. And then in November, the UN adopts Resolution 181, which divides Palestine into a Jewish state and an Arab state. And that's what caused everything to happen. And then as the Palestinians start to try to fight back, the United States is intervening covertly and secretly and toppling the Palestinian resistance movements so that they can only fall victim to what the Israelis are doing. This is why we don't like Zionism. I'm going to stop there. But let me read this scripture. Let me read this scripture real quick and I'm going to let y'all go. So all praise to the Most High. I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. Let's get Luke 21 and 24. Once again, very important topic because this could be us. As we seek to build our state, build our nation state, as we seek to build that, it's going to be forces that are working against us night and day to stop it from happening. Just as there have always been forces working against us, right? They're going to be documenting everything. And those people who are weak among us and who are frail and ready to become traitors, they're going to give them an opportunity to become traitors. It's going to happen. But the best thing about it for us is that prophecy is on our side and nothing can stop the children of Israel from getting to where they got to get to, right? So let's get Luke 21 and 21. It says, I'm going to start at verse 20. And when you shall see Jerusalem coming, compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. Now we believe that this happened in 70 AD, right? But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So there's not supposed to be no children of Israel in the land, especially by and large. I can't say no because, I can get on a plane and go to Israel. But by and large, the children of Israel are not going to live in the land until the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled, and that time is not fulfilled. They still over there fighting. They're still over there at war, and the Gentiles got a damn mosque up on the Temple Mount right now, right? Or where most people believe the Temple Mount is. So all praise to the Most High. Maybe we'll do a part 2. There's a lot more information. Look at this. A lot more information, which I could go into. I'll summarize it briefly. I go into settler colonialism, and then I pull Psalms 49:11, which says that these wicked people will take over lands and name it after themselves. We go into the Human Rights Council. We look at the UN and how they voted against what was going on in Israel. We look at the United Nations Security Council, all of that. Like, you know what I'm saying? We could do all of that, but I think right here is a good stopping point. And just to show y'all why we don't deal with the Israel-Palestine conflict. I'm going to stop the screen share. I'm going to hit y'all with Daniel 7. And then we're going to get up out of here, man. All right. This right here is the classic precept. And this is why we're not worried about Esau's devices. We're not worried about his CIA, his FBI. He can put us on the list if he want to. It's all fine, well, and good, man. The Most High determines everything. This is the book of Daniel 7:18. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. By Hashem Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. Hey, I appreciate y'all, man, for joining. Shalom.
This is not a test.
Black skin, black sauce, black Jesus, black music, black skin, black sauce, black Jesus, black music, black skin, black sauce, black Jesus, black music, black skin, black sauce.